I asked her. I have an appointment. With who? With the man who cuts the birdies off boys who ask too many questions. The books had been consigned to me because I had not done very well in my first year of school. The teacher, a big-boned woman from Rocca Secca, whose breasts jutted out like a mountain face, and whose body gave off a strong odor of garlic and perfumed soap, had sent me home with a note. Vittorio Innocente is intelligent but lazy. However, if La Signora doesn't interest herself in his education, there's nothing to be done. My attendance at school had not been very regular. It had somehow fallen out that I'd spend much of my class time wandering up to the top of Colla di Papa or down to the river with my friend Fabrizio, sharing with him the cigarettes he filched from his father. La Maestra had paid a visit to my mother one afternoon to advise her of my truancy and vices, but my mother had only laughed. "He's just bored, that's all, sitting in that classroom all day." But now it seemed I was to be reformed. "We'll show La Maestra, eh?" my mother said. "When you grow up, you're going to be a pope. This summer, you'll catch up on all the lessons you missed while you were out chasing sheep with Fabrizio." And so I sat now, on the stone bench in front of my grandfather's house, a book called Principi Matematici open on my lap to page 3. But I was not attending to it. I had slipped instead into a state of indolence which was very common at that time of year, especially when it was 1 o'clock and the sun was shining and the whole world seemed wrapped in a warm yellow dream. Nearby, a swarm of flies hovered around a cluster of droppings on the cobblestones, the braver ones alighting and calling out to their friends. "It's goat, but it's not bad." They rubbed their hands together the way my Uncle Pasquale did when he sat down to a plate of pasta all'uovo. A flock of sheep came around the corner from the direction of the square, followed by old Angelo Daniello, the Red, we called him, because he was one of Valle del Sole's few communists, though years of faithful drinking had helped his appearance conform to his name, his nose and cheeks bright with shattered blood vessels. He moved with a measured nonchalance, his legs taking long, slow strides which his upper body bobbed in tandem to, though his arms remained inert at his sides, only one hand moving, slapping a short sheep stick idly against a pant leg as he walked. The horde of flies above the goat droppings rose in unison as the sheep approached. "Oh, Vito!" Angelo called out. "What are you doing out here frying yourself in the sun like that?" "I'm studying my mathematics," I said, opening my eyes wide and flipping a page. "I'm going to be a pope." "A pope? Why settle for a pope? Why not Jesus Christ himself?" My grandfather's house sat at the very edge of town, set apart from the village's last straggling houses by a patch of low bush. And not far beyond it, the cobblestones ended and the road deteriorated into a mere dirt path, scarred by gullies and by the ruts of mule carts. A thin film of dust rose up from the ground as the sheep moved onto the dirt, hovering round their feet like a fog. At La Fonte di Capre, the village's communal fountain, Angelo stopped a moment to cup his hands under the spout and bring a draught of water to his mouth. I turned another page in my book, relieved for a moment by the taut crinkling of paper. The picture showed 4 shiny black apples, 2 spaced out widely and 2 huddled close together. Then, underneath, these markings, 1 + 1 = 2. The book seemed to be arguing that I make some connection between the apples and the markings beneath. But the sun reflecting off the page and filling my eyes with sleep was arguing otherwise. Slowly my eyelids drooped and closed, while a happy host of apples and numbers, freed from the tyranny of the book, danced in my head in wild combinations. I was awakened by a muffled shout. The shout, it had sounded like a man's, had come from the direction of our stable, which on the street side of the house was buried in the slope the house was cut into, but on the valley side opened out at ground level. I set down my book and bounded down the crooked stone stairway.